we'll start at fullback, boys. Okay, the first question I want to ask you, boys, is what type of rugby league do we want to play? Because I'm going to make this argument. If we want to play similar to Melbourne Storm, and we know Bellyache, he is an advisor of the coaching staff, which is us, he plays a Melbourne Storm type of football, which is like quick play the ball, the best support player in the game, which is Papenhuyzen. Or do we want to play a game style similar to what Michael Maguire did last year, and that is field position, camp him down their end. Yes, we may not have as much attacking weapon at the back there, but we got heaps of runs, heaps of meters, and heaps of field position, and eventually they'll break. What do we want to do, boys? Where are we at? Where are you at?
I'm in the latter.
Okay.
I've gone with Dylan Edwards there. Obviously, he featured last year, did an incredible job there, down 1-0, came back in, and I just think he's got the sort of temperament that I want to have in my side. Pappy would be a fantastic choice if you're looking to play that way, obviously. But I just think combination-wise as well, we'll go through the side as we go, but I've got a few Penrith boys in there, and I think Dylan Edwards, despite not being in the best form right now, I just think Edwards is made for Origin. And I just think it's a bit of I love Pappy, he's in incredible form. I wouldn't push back on you if you said Pappy's in better form than Edwards. I think that's pretty evident, but I just think Edwards is an Origin player, so he gets a nod for me.
What do you reckon, boys?
Yeah, I've got Edwards at fullback too, and that sort of sets the game plan for me. So if you're going for Edwards over someone like Tedesco or Papenhuyzen, I think you're playing that high percentage footy, play through the middle, just aim for high completion, and the other selection, which we'll get to a little bit later, maybe something around a long kicking game, but it's just controlling field possession. And then the strike that the Blues have at their disposal in the outside backs, I just want to be in their 20 and complete. Do not give the Maroons a sniff, because if we're in your 20, you won't stop us. We're too good. I think you've got defensive concerns on your edges, both sides, so I think you won't be able to stop us. So I just don't want to give you a sniff. I'm high completion. I'm controlled footy, long kicking game, kick early if need be, and Dylan Edwards at fullback, he sort of sets all that up with that big yardage.
Does that go against the whole picking on form?
Yeah, it probably does. But I think Laurie made a good point when he was pressed on that a little bit. He goes, look, if you're just picking on form, you probably just go to the Dally M, who's leading the Dally M, and just copy and paste the team from there. So you do have to go a little bit deeper than that, and obviously combinations and stuff come into it. But that said, I've gone with Papenhuyzen as the fullback.
Okay, wow.
As a Queensland fan, I kind of went, what would you like to come up against least? What scares you the most?
Okay.
And I just think Papenhuyzen, and maybe I'm a little bit scarred from what happened on the weekend, but a game like that, a lot of these games last year, particularly the decider, was very tight. Who's going to be able to bust some of those games open or have big special moments? And I think it's Ryan Papenhuyzen at the moment, and he's currently 26 years old. If they go and back him now, he's back to his best footy at the moment. He obviously had a couple of years off with injury, but if you get him in there and you get him in there now, you could get 5, 6, 7 years out of this guy, as your Blues fullback. Now, I know those other guys are great and have put together good CVs, but I don't think Dylan Edwards has been in form that demands that he's a walk-up start. Tedesco's been really good as well, but I wonder whether maybe they've just moved past him. I think they've got a good opportunity to get Papenhuyzen in, and that's why I've thrown him in there.
See, the argument with Papenhuyzen as well is what's happened to the game last 5 years? It's sped up. And I just wonder, with that speed around the ruck, could that be the difference? Could that be the difference where it's like, where Edwards gives you an extra 10 metres per set or whatever, not per set, per extra 3 or 4 metres per set, are you going to gain you get an extra line break and a half with Pappy through the middle? That's what I wonder. And also, is Edwards fully fit?
My pushback on that, I think the game has sped up. The big games are consistently decided by fullbacks like Edwards, though, in my opinion, over the last few years. The game has sped up, but
I would say for a long period of time, the game was decided by a fullback by Billy Slater, and Pappy's closer to Billy Slater.
There's been one fullback that's won the last 4 comps in a row, and he's been incredible in all those big games. Origin's a big game. The argument I could make for Pappy is I think up at Suncorp, bit of a faster track. I can get around that. But I just think it's a risk you don't need to take with a guy like Dylan Edwards available. No
concern about kind of a bit of injury, cloudy, this season.
I personally don't think he's fully 100% fit.
And you asked Dylan Edwards that question, all right? He bleeds blue. He's won a series last year. He's been tremendous for a number of years now across club footy, international footy. He's had opportunities. you have a conversation with him. You say, mate, where are you at? You chat to the Panthers staff and their doctors, their physios. Is he at 100%? Is it 90%? If he's anything less than that, all right, you have a look at Teddy, you have a look at Papenhuyzen. But as long as you get confirmation from both Dylan Edwards, and he seems like a straight shooter for me, I can he'd tell you. If he was underdone and under a bit of an injury cloud, he would say that and I wouldn't pick him. But if he gives you the okay that he's 90 to 100% fit, he won it last year, he's done it. You know, Maroons sit here and carry on about pick and stick time and time again and pisses me off because as soon as you lose, you change that motto. But there's merit to it.
Jesus Christ.
There's merit to it that when you're winning, you do. And Dylan Edwards, since that Origin series last year, he's won another comp. Like, why change?
It's pretty easy to pick and stick, Timmy, when you've got 12 Immortals in your team for 8 years.
Heaps easy.
I think the other thing with Edwards too, boys, is if you're not going to pick him because he's not 100% fit, he's probably got 1 premiership ring, not 4. The bloke's played injured the last 4 years straight. Like he can handle
The only
himself.
problem, if the argument is because they've won 4 premierships in a row, there's a few other blokes that you'd have to put into the side because they've won 4 premierships in a row.
Yeah.
And also the pick and stick argument as well. There's going to be some other blokes that, if that was your argument, you would also include them in the side, which we'll get to.
Look, I'm not Laurie Daly, and he's throwing this line out there about picking on form and learning from lessons of the past. To a degree, that's fine. But for my side, I think that there's probably going to be a bit of pick and stick to it. And it's different, right? Like, I think Papenhuyzen is absolutely going to produce more points than Dylan Edwards. And I would have no knock with Ryan Papenhuyzen being there. But when we've got strike weapons like Latrell Mitchell, Tom Trbojevic, Nathan Cleary, all these superstars, you don't need a game-breaking fullback in your team. If you looked at your side and you went, geez, we're a bit flat for points, where's the creativity going to come from? Sweet, you pick Pappy. We don't need points. They're going to come.
What about just first of all, your thoughts, and then I'll get to the next question.
Yeah, perhaps controversially, I'm going Tedesco.
I was about to say, so if you want that version of fullback, right now, Tedesco has had, we know he can do it in the big games, and I'll let you...
Well, that is the exact reason I'm picking him. I don't want to change much of how we played last year. I love Papenhuyzen, and there's no doubt for me he's the form fullback of the comp, but I just don't think he suits what the team from last year and like how they want to play. And I think, like for like, Tedesco's averaging over 200 metres a game. If he's not, if Pappy's the form fullback, Teddy's probably second. He's absolutely killing it.
He's the reigning Dally M fullback.
He's a reigning Dally M fullback, and please don't forget, James Tedesco, in my opinion, is the New South Wales Blues' best player since Andrew Johns in that arena. And there is absolutely no question for me. From 20, when he debuted in, I think, 16, game 3, all the way up until the end of 2021, mate, he was unstoppable. And I know that, they wanted to go away from him last year because perhaps it took away from Cleary, and I do have my concerns about that. I really do. But Edwards is playing busted for me. And for me, he's only had, 2 good games this year. I just reckon Teddy's hot right now.
Here's a question. He's so hot right now. For you boys, regardless of what Dylan Edwards would say, whether he's injured or he's not injured, do you think he's 100% right now?
No, I don't. But I didn't think he was in those grand finals either.
Not quite. There's also, what do we got? Still another 2.5 weeks until the game's played.
But hang on, it's a bit different though. Like, if he was playing a grand final and James Tedesco was up next, like, we'd be having a different conversation. It had to be the guy. He had to be the guy in that grand final. I think comparing playing injured in a grand final to Origin is different. I think you got to pick your
There's a choice
fittest
between
guy.
him and like some reserve grader rather than him and Teddy.
100%.
I think that James Tedesco is still a better footballer than Dylan Edwards. But I think when we're picking a New South Wales team, I think Dylan Edwards suits what we're trying to do more, right? What we've seen with Tedesco in recent years, and he's so dominant at club level because he gets so many touches. He jumps into first receiver. He does everything. He has a tendency to overplay his hand, and that works at the Roosters right now. And they've got inexperienced halves who, they need this dominant fullback to come in and get a lot of touches, especially in attacking territory. At Origin camp, we don't want Tedesco necessarily to come in and jump into first receiver and overplay it. Dylan Edwards is a fantastic role player. They'll run for a similar amount of metres, and he chimes in exactly where he's needed to. He won't take touches off Moses, Cleary, Luai, whoever your halves are. He'll make sure that your outside backs, or these strike weapons, they're getting their early ball. It's not a knock on Teddy. I just think Dylan Edwards suits the Blues team that we've got.
Now, so I've been questioning. It sounds like I'm anti-Teddy or anti-Edwards. The reason why I'm going Edwards is because I believe that even him at 90%, his style of rugby league suits the core of the team that we are most likely going to pick. Now, if that changes, obviously we'll get to that. But when you've got a core of Penrith that it looks like we're probably going to lean into, he will be able to play the role better. I think the problem with Teddy is, even if he was in career best form right now, let's say he's in the best form of his life, I don't think he suits pairing with Cleary. I think they've struggled to strike up a connection that really, really works. And even in the season that they were good together in 2021, that was the Trell and Turbo show. And also, if I'm being honest, it was actually also the Luai show and getting them early ball, especially I think it was Trell on his side up in Townsville. And so I think that it's actually not about who's better between Edwards and Teddy form-wise, or even just who's a better player. It's more about who gels better with the half that we're most likely going to choose. And I think that it's been proven over the period where New South Wales have lost series that they probably should have won, that the Cleary-Teddy thing just doesn't seem to gel well.
And that's why, for me, Teddy isn't a no-brainer. Like, I have thought about this all week. And Edwards, honestly, Edwards has been my fullback all year. But I just think he's not at 100%. He's not in form, in my opinion. And Teddy, as you said, Timmy, is probably he's proven in Origin and all around a better player. So that's why I've gone Teddy, but by no means would I be upset if Edwards
When Teddy had his dominant period, he was the big dog in that spine. Like, he had halves that were like obviously it was Cleary initially, and he was rookie Cleary, so he was like take a backward step. A bunch of different. We had Maloney as a 6, I think, at one stage.
Yeah.
Who was very much a role player, Maloney, and more of a spiritual guy. Whereas at the moment, I think that Cleary is the big dog now, or even now, if your 7 is going to be Mitchell Moses, maybe that's a different question. Maybe him and Teddy could work together. The problem is we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. We don't know. Whereas we do know Cleary and Edwards gel well together. So even if Edwards is at 90%, it's the role he'll play there that I think is going to work.
We also know as well Moses and Edwards will work well together.
Because we saw it last year as well.
I think as well there has to be an aspect of, and I don't know if anyone else cares about this as much as I do, but we moved on from Teddy last year. We brought him back in for game 1. I think we need to start to look to the future.
I can't see, that's a big one as well. Laurie Daly, what does it look like if he goes? I'm going back to my man that I had then. I wonder whether he'll be, that keen on doing that.
Because the other thing optically is, and we'll get to Jake Trbojevic soon, but you let go of your current captain to bring back an old captain to let someone else captain. It's just a lot of fuck around for me.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good point.
Alrighty, boys, it's time for the rubber to meet the road.
Yep.
Dylan Edwards is our fullback.
Well, it's 3-1-1, so yeah.
Yeah. I think he's probably the guy they'll go with. If it was purely on form, happy. But I think to the point you guys have made about with the style they're going to look to play, how he gels with other players, and the connection he's got, it's probably going to be. Well,
funnily enough,
Edwards.
If there is a different side pick, I think you do go Pappy. Like, if you are going balls to the wall, fucking fast play the balls, win the ruck, then I think you do get Pappy. And I've got a version of a side here that I think would suit that, but we'll get to that eventually.
Just out of interest before we move on, if Edwards happened to be injured, I'd go Teddy.
Teddy.
Yeah. What about you?
Pappy. For the reasons we just kind of talked ourselves into.
You're going Pappy anyway, though. What would you do?
Oh, it just depends on the side I'm going to select. You'd probably go, if you're still all in on that style of rugby league, you go Teddy, because they're very similar, Teddy and Edwards. But the worry I have with Teddy is the overplaying, the stepping in at first receiver, that kind of stuff.
I'd be having a combo with Teddy, and Teddy will do it. I know he struggles because he's such a hands-on player, but I'd be saying, mate, come in, but just take back your role. We don't need you jumping into first receiver. I'd be very specific on the role you want James Tedesco to play and be very clear on that so that we don't get
clunked. You know what? I'd be going Pappy.
I know we're getting deep into hypotheticals here. Any Turbo interest?
No.
Before the
weekend, for sure.
Yeah. 100%. He would have been my fullback behind Edwards before the weekend, where he just didn't look at 100%.
Yeah.
Even before the weekend, as a key position like that, if he goes down halfway through the game, I know you can cover it, but you don't want to be covering that stuff. Fair. It's just such a risk. Whereas a wing, you can kind of we'll get to that, but you can move players to suit the wing. And also, he'll be doing so much less work in the wing that, anyway, we'll get to that. But you know what, the more I think about it, the more I go, you know what, I'd probably go Pappy. Just that speed through the ruck. You know he's going to play a role. You know he's going to be second fiddle to Cleary as well. The worry I have with Teddy is when the game gets high, like super intense, he falls back on what he does so well for the Roosters, and also what he did so well at Origin, which was becomes the big dog, the main man, and wins matches himself. The problem is that this team, we'll get to it, it's Isaiah Yeo and Cleary's side, in my opinion, and that it should be their side. Or it's Mitchell Moses and someone else's side. But anyway, we'll get to that. But to make it really clear, it has nothing to do with how good Teddy is. It has everything to do with the style of player that Teddy is. And suiting, if I had a young spine, 1,000,000% I'm going Teddy. Like if I had Cleary and Luai, 2021 backwards, or even 2022, 100%, I'm going Teddy every day of the week. But I feel like Cleary, Moses, even Luai even Luai have grown enough where they can take the lead and it's their side.
Yep.
But a young spine, I'm going Teddy. Matter of fact, a young spine, I'm going Teddy before Edwards.
Yep.
So that's just to give you an idea of like my thoughts with Teddy and where I land on him. But okay, so it's Edwards at back.